A very good morning and welcome back to Havana Media. My name is Professor Wino, and as usual, I'm going to be your host for today. Now, obviously, as we all know very well that every Monday we normally have some interactions here and there about what is happening in the country. That is, we normally call it the breaking political barriers. But now today, once again, I've been visited by two gentlemen here. I want them to, of course we know them, but I just want to give them time to say one or two things. But before that, let me start by asking this question. Prof.
Yes.
A foolish human takes the things that a naked man has said seriously.
A naked man has?
A foolish human.
Yes.
Takes the things that have been said by a naked man seriously.
Yes, that's, yeah.
We have to start on that note. Anyway, go ahead.
What do you have to say?
Yeah, they say
what do you understand by that?
That means that when a man is naked, they'll promise anything because there's something they want. So if you take their promise at that point, it means you don't know when they should take promises. So it means that promise won't happen.
Yeah. Done.
I really don't like that analogy very much, but it is true. You see, in that situation when, and I believe the woman is also naked at that point, the promises that are made at that particular point, they are sometimes done without thinking. You see, at this point, the man's blood has left the brain, and it is focusing on the other small head, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, of course, the promises will be made based on the excitement of the moment. But after that, they'll forget about the promises they made. Yeah.
Okay. Now, I've wrote that analogy because of what I want us to discuss. The ultimate, the alternative leadership. And I would like Professor Fred Ugola to at least say one or two things before I guide you on what you want to talk about.
Yeah, so first of all, the main question is why are we talking about alternative leadership? You see, we have had problems in Kenya, and since independence, we have been promised that we are fighting against three enemies: poverty, disease, and ignorance. We have had a lot of regime change between Kenyatta to Moi to Kibaki, Kibaki to Uhuru, now Uhuru with Ruto. These three problems still remains existential risk in the country. How comes that we are anywhere near addressing them? Because if you look at education sector now, 61 years after independence is in shambles. Imagine someone who is 61 years old should be mature. Neither tackling education has matured. Health, look at SHA-SHIF, isn't it? In spite of the NHIF that was brought by Kibaki, then look at the issue of cost of living. It is tighter, it's worse now than at independence. I remember when I grew up, we used to be poor, but we used not to be hungry. I don't know that you can agree with me. My father used to earn 1,500 as a catechist here in Kibra, but we would survive. Now, who can survive with 1,500 now a month? And we're 11 children. What has happened? That we are poorer, our health is worse. At the same time, our education system is really collapsing. So we have listened to all these things. People have come with manifesto, they have come with ideas, but we realize these ideas are so much the same, and they're not taking us anywhere. For example, why we are talking about alternative leadership at this time. We have been told Kibaki left this economy to Uhuru Kenyatta, who was supposed to bring the continuity of Kibaki administration. But you can tell that that was not exactly what happened during his reign. Then Uhuru left us in the hands of Ruto. I don't want to say Uhuru's candidate was Raila Odinga because I don't know. He never told me. And we don't have evidence, so we don't know. What we know is that he handed over power to Ruto. In spite of saying that he'll never hand over power to a thief. He said it. So he still did it. So some people believe that Uhuru was pretending to be supporting Raila, but he didn't. I don't want to say yes or no because I don't have evidence. At the same time, some people can say that his candidate was actually Ruto because they said kumi yangu kumi yako. So all these things is the same thing again. Betrayal. Mount Kenya said no. Uhuru cannot bring Raila for them. So those disagreements were there. The point I'm trying to say now, in spite of all those regime changes, change of administration, change of government, calling it now Kenya Kwanza government after being called Jubilee administration, after being called PNU government, we haven't addressed those issues. And the current president, called William Ruto, is aware of these historical failures. And he promised Kenya, never again will Kenyans disappear. Isn't it? He said that poverty will end. We are being told Ukombozi Yaja as soon as I drop the Bible. But what we are seeing that after the Bible dropped down, we are seeing more trouble that we hope the Bible could have just remained up. Maybe when the Bible was up, there was a blessing from God. But when the Bible went down, the curse came upon this country. So we are saying that what we want to be done, what our fathers of the Constitution foresaw, what the founders of this country foresaw, what many Kenyans have died for, James Kariuki's, the Tom Boyers, the Ukos, name them, Ochukas, name all those Kenyans who have died, even Shikukus, what they fought for, has completely not been executed, and therefore Kenya is in this trouble. So what Kenyans wants to be done is not being done, has not been done, won't be done. There is no interest to do. There's no capacity to do. And people have gone to the media to tell the president, stop this and start this. And he has not refused. He has refused. So if you say stop this, start that, you get abducted. When you resist anything, you are in trouble. The more we complain, the worse. Look at now the Finance Bill 2024. What I'm looking at, the proposal in the Finance Bill 2025 is worse than
the 2024.
These people have been put in a coffin, not because they are dead, but with the suspicion they have lost conscience, that the ears of their soul cannot hear anything what Kenyans are crying about. The Kenyans who are crying as they die without sheaf. The children who can't go to school now because of the education system. University students who cannot work with the funding model. Everybody has cried until they're saying now, if you look at Psalm 129, I look up the mountain, where shall come my help? Then they say, my help comes in the name of the Lord who created the heaven and the earth. So then our help can't come by looking at State House. It's into the mountains. Now, there where I believe that we need alternative leadership, not a regime change, not even change of guard. We need alternative ways of leading Kenya. And now, unfortunately, when I'm looking at the current formation, you hear someone says, oh, for me, I was betrayed. But the person is driving with the parks, driving cars that have been from taxpayers' money. So ask myself, who has been betrayed? Is it somebody who was a former deputy president? Is it someone who was a minister in a government who is no longer eating? So whoever is saying they have been betrayed or thinking they have a new formula, the only thing which distinguishes them from us is that who is eating and who is not eating, who is stealing and who is not stealing, who is corrupt and who is not corrupt. So if they are still the same people and they are saying they have been betrayed, so they are looking for how to liberate Kenya, then we are thinking not even about them anymore. We are thinking about the alternative leadership and what this should be. I'll summarize by saying that we need a lean government, not a broad-based government, not a government that is expensive, that Kenyans can't carry. Imagine a few people in government are too heavy for Kenyans to carry. If you look at all the national government officials, they are not more than 1,600. They are heavier than 53 million people. So a very broad government, too expensive government. So we need a lean government. Secondly, we need a clean government, a government that is free from corruption, a government that has people of merit. So the opposite we are getting is highly incompetent government, grossly incompetent, and highly corrupt or grossly corrupt. Without this, we can never have alternative government. When Gachagua was there, was he among those who were stealing from Kenya or they were being stolen from? When Martha Karua was there, how was it like? Kalonzo Musyoka was there, how was it like? When we change regime from the sitting president to another, any of those people I'm talking about, even if you put Raila Odinga on it, isn't it? Will you representing a new Kenya? Matiang'i's names are coming up. I'm not opposing anybody. I'm just trying to say that, do you see that as alternative leadership or change of regime? Alternative leadership needs to have a different software. We cannot have the same thinking to solve a problem created by the same thinking. So some people have been part of the thinking of the former government. Now they are now looking like they're the alternative. So we want to talk about alternative. It's not about the person. It's about the leadership philosophy. What's the mindset? Like if you look now, young people are saying when we live in leadership, and that's what I was saying, that if we ever form a government, anybody who is above 55 years will never be a CS. Because at 55, you need to retire. So those people should chair commissions, should chair parastatals. Let young people, energetic, come and work when they're energetic, intelligent, innovative, creative, and ambitious. When they have a legacy to leave. After 45, you should never be a PS. A PS should be below 35 years, like 35, 30, you should be a PS. Then you grow into become a CS. Then later, you can become something bigger in government. Not that you are starting at 55, you're a PS. You're already too tired. We want young people to work. Now you're bringing for us tired, retired, and retarded people. Now let me give example of one of them. Kabogo has been reappointed in the government to become a minister for ICT. Kabogo is born before computer. BBC, born before computer. Now, between Kabogo and Kibet the Bull, who would be in charge of ICT?
Kibet, of course.
How can what conversation does Kabogo have in ICT? You compare with the minister for Rwanda in ICT, isn't it? She's a lady.
Yeah.
She's below 32. She was born after computer. When she was born, she saw a phone, and she touched the phone when she was crawling.
Yeah.
Now, people like Kabogo, who saw computer as a threat to their future. You remember, let's not forget, when I was in high school in St. Mary's Yala in 1999, where I finished high school, these people are writing articles that the threat of computers. They were writing, people like Kabogo, these people in government now, they were threatened by computers. Just like you and I are threatened by AI, isn't it? And machine learning and internet. These guys were threatened, just a computer. There was no internet yet. There was just a computer. Now, someone who was threatened by the coming of a computer, being a minister for ICT, that is not alternative leadership. There's no software that can take us somewhere. So my main dictum here is that we need new thinking. We need a new software. We need people who are serious. So I'm saying we need to get rid of career politicians in charge of the economy and bring professionalism into politics. And if we don't do that, we are going nowhere. Like the best and brightest of Kenyans need to come to government and run the government. In Singapore, which they give us example, is the best and brightest. It is not bringing people who should be in the museum to run a government which is creating history that shall now go to museum. If you have reached the age of museum, you go to the museum. But let the guys who now, young people are saying we are still young. Let me tell you, Bon, if we youth don't take over this government in 2032, we'll not be youth in the next election. So it is now, not tomorrow. That's why I'm encouraging any young person. Don't care about the money you don't have. Go vie. Join this alternative leadership. Because with the new ideas you have, you are born with the phone in your hand, isn't it? You are born with the computer in your hand. Let's come together and have the new leadership dispensation. rather than recycling, reusing. No.
Now, Honorable Dan, there is something that Prof I've talked about the leadership that was there before, and maybe what is the expected thing to come. That one now is talking that is this one now is talking about the alternative leadership. Now, what are the things that were being done traditionally that you as a person, as someone who is planning to go and vie somewhere to become a leader somewhere, you feel like, no, we need to change from the traditional way of leadership now to the modern way of leadership?
Yeah, before I look at that, I want to agree to some extent with Prof from what he has said about this alternative leadership. But again, quickly remind him that this is the song we have been singing over and over again. When I listened to somebody, this guy called Linjiru. Linjiru was Moi's PA for a very long time. There is a statement that he said that caught my mind up to now. These big names he's mentioning, he called them political cousins. When push comes to shove, they'll just kick you out and unite and move on. And this is what has been happening all through. I think that those are the ones he's referring to as career politicians. Somebody like Kalonzo Musyoka was a minister of education, I think, when I was in lower primary school, many years ago. I think he joined politics around 85. Prof, how old were you in 1985?
Well, I mean, I was barely in school.
Prof
I was not yet in school.
Prof has just said something that reminded me. You know, Prof is actually my age.
So he's just been keeping quiet.
He says he was in St. Mary's Yala in 1999.
That is when he finished his high school.
That was the year, yes.
That was when you did your Form 4.
Yes.
The same year I was doing my Form 4 in Kakamega High School.
Wow. My brother. You are my peer. My peer.
So at least on that one, we are equal.
We are at par.
We are equal on that one.
But let us go to the grades. What did he get?
Now, the grades. I managed a B plus.
Wow.
Was it a B plus
That's
or
remarkable.
a B? It was
That's
a B
remarkable.
plain. A B plain with the 73 points.
Wow. That's good.
Then I was admitted somewhere, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, in other words, basically, is that I've been around long enough to understand some of these things Prof is talking about. And it is true, even when we were doing the last campaign, I told you I was one of the biggest supporters of the Hustler Nation movement as their national organizing secretary. And we had a vision for this country. But when it comes to politics, the way we have been playing our politics, it is always about who has more money and who doesn't have. Prof has rightly asked the young people to come out and run for these positions, present themselves for these positions. But the same young people are not being allowed to register as voters. So even if you announce you are going to vie, and the situation remains the way it is with IEBC, this vision might not be achieved. Remember, we are dealing with African leaders who don't want to leave power. Some are talking about, we can extend to 24 years and so on and so forth. Such like things. That is the kind of thinking in the mind of most of the leaders we have. So yes, these young people can come together. They can mobilize, but the decision will be made at the ballot. The question is, who will be running that process? The issue of information technology, for example, what Prof has said again, I think we again swam with him in the same pond. When computer studies was introduced in high school, I was in Form 2. And I was
in Form 2.
Yes,
Yes.
we were in Form 2.
Yes.
That was in 1997.
Yes.
And I was looking at these guys doing computer and wondering whether they are normal or not. I came to understand the really importance of computers when I became a teacher. I was a high school teacher for 13 years. And I had to buy a computer and teach myself in the house. That is how I came to know the much I know about computers. But you see, when you take somebody like those names we have that have been mentioned,
people like Kabogo,
make them the minister for ICT, and the first statement they say is, I have the capacity to shut down social media. Such a person doesn't know what they are saying. Remember during the swearing in of the what is it called? The inauguration. Of Trump the other day. He had to recognize his son, the last born. Did you know why?
Because the son is the one who helped him.
The son helped him through which method?
It was the computer, internet.
TikTok.
Actually,
And that is how Trump got a lot of votes from the young people. So this social media, whatever they say, is here to stay. I hear even in Sudan, they shut it down, I don't know, for 90 days or what. But you see, when you shut down social media, it means you are now preventing your people from getting the latest information. Something that used to take us a whole year to do today takes an average 1 month. Yes. So if somebody was to shut down internet for 2 months, your country will be 2 years behind others.
Absolutely.
So these are some of the things we need to be looking at, even as people talk about, like our friend Kabogo talks about shutting down social media. It is not the solution. Elon Musk has brought Starlink. And Starlink is something just in the air. You cannot shut down. You cannot shut people's phones down. People will still have their phones, and this information
they don't even know
flow.
they can't do it.
Yeah, they don't know they can't do it, by the way.
And they don't even know how to do it.
They don't even know how to do it. So it is all, to use Martha Kome's words, hot air. There is nothing that Kabogo is going to do about social media. There is nothing that the president can do about it. This information will still flow. We will get it. And we will keep reminding them of the right way of leading. Whether they listen to us or not, that is up to them. It is our job to remind them of what we expect of them. Because at the end of the day, we elected them. We gave them a mandate to run this country for 5 years. They have already, for example, this government has already done almost 2.5 years. So it is 2.5 years to go. Let's wait and see. But the issue of alternative leadership is something we need to very seriously look at, because we cannot keep doing the same things or recycling the same leaders who are giving us the same results. We need people who have, not necessarily with experience, they can go there and learn on the job. They go there and listen to the people.
And Prof,
Yes.
don't you think that one of the major things that a lot of Honorable Dan have talked about this issue of alternative leadership. Yes. People have been talking about it. Has been there for a very long time. And in fact, a lot of people have been saying that we want an alternative. We want to find another way of handling this thing. But don't you think that the problem has been that we don't have visionary leaders? Like, okay, they're just leaders there, but now they don't have a vision of what is supposed to be done. Like, let's say, for instance, a very good example is this one of Kabogo. Now is in the ICT. I'm sure he doesn't even understand anything to do with the AI. According to the way I was listening to him, he doesn't even understand how AI operates. The ChatGPT doesn't understand how it operates. So you're saying that you are going to handle this, and then you're giving an example with the high school.
Yes.
So don't you think that having no vision as a leader on the docket where you are put is one of the major things that is affecting these people?
Yeah, actually, when you saw me writing the book on Solomonic economics, I'd sat down and looked at how economics was being run, and I felt very unfortunate. But before I go further, let me just read for you the definition of alternative leadership. A path that is not commonly taken, but lead to better results. So alternative leadership does not mean alternative person, but a path less traveled. a route less traveled. There's what we call a primary path. Let's say, for example, you want to get married. In my culture, see your aunt. That's the primary path, isn't it?
Yeah.
But alternative path, you can go and Google. You understand?
Yeah.
So that's alternative path. When you want to buy something, let's say you want shoes. The primary path normally is walk to the shop physically and check or go to the market. But nowadays you can go online and check where they should. So that's an alternative path, which is better. Because in online, you can see 20 shops in a one screen of a phone. But if you go to Kenyatta Avenue, you'll have to walk and sometimes even forget the exact size or the color. But here, you see all the colors, you see all the prices. You've been told this one is near you here. You can compare. You see even this one you can return if it's not fitting you. So alternative path is normally the path less traveled and actually is the path that gives you better results. So with that in mind is, the vision here is that Lee Kuan Yew came up with a vision for Singapore. And then is when he said that for us to achieve that dream, we must have a lean and clean government. So his vision was to make Singapore a first world. Then after that, he had to come up with a way to do it. That's why economics, which I wrote in Solomonics, is the what.
Yeah.
As a strategist, strategy answers the question, how do you do that? That's why you have to need a lean and clean government. Now, is Kabogo clean? Is Kagwe clean? Isn't it? And is Kenya Kwanza lean? Is Ruto clean? Is Kindiki clean? So as far as you're putting people who are not clean, ni kama kusiaga mahindi ambayo imeoza and you want to prepare a fresh ugali. It's not possible. I don't know whether even for us we used to have tunatoa kuna ile mahindi ile ya brown na kuna hii ya white, sivyo? They used to be separated.
Yes.
Or unless you want to mix them. So kama mahindi imeoza ilikuwa inatolewa. Wanataka kutengeneza githeri na mahindi ambayo imeoza. Obviously people will not enjoy the githeri. So if you look at Kenya Kwanza government, if the cabinet there looks like maize you want to use to prepare githeri, are you going to enjoy it?
You can't.
Ukisiaga hiyo mahindi ya Kenya Kwanza na utengeneze na ugali, italiwa. Italika. So it starts from there. When the government is not clean, then the results is what we are getting. Lean. It's heavy. Now, look. If you want to know this guy don't want to run the economy, can you imagine, Bon, that the past budget, 2024-2025 budget was 3.9 trillion. The current budget is 4.3 trillion. That's an increment of 400 billion, isn't it? So the growth in the budget is more than 12% growth in budget, isn't it? But the revenue has grown by 4.8, which means the GDP is the revenue, isn't it? So meaning that what we are using to spend is growing faster than what we are getting out of our expenditure. If you are doing a business, let's say you are doing a business of roasting maize, isn't it? Your capital can be 2,000 shillings a day, isn't it? This year, your capital is 2,000 a day. Next year, then your revenue could be around 4,000, isn't it? You're making a profit. So next year, you cannot double your capital to 4,000 and then you're collecting 1,000. When you double your capital by to 4,000, you should be getting 8,000 as revenue. For us, we are adding more our capital, but we are reducing how much you are getting. You're getting me? So that's the problem is. So when I see John Buddy saying that now I'm going to turn around the Kenya, I was like, excuse me, the ROI, the return on investment in the Kenyan economy is negative. Because you are spending, you are increasing your costs by 12% and your revenue is growing at 4.3%. Even banks don't do that. There's no single business in Kenya that increases their costs while their revenue does not increase at the same rate. So if you look at the vision I'm talking about here is that Kenya has a vision 2030, which is clear. We should be a middle income economy. What does that mean? Every Kenyan should afford a middle class income, which is an average of 120,000 as for now, isn't it? How many people have an average income of 120,000 a month? Very few. But it is possible by investing in this economy to ensure we can get, that was the vision which was done during Kibaki's time. I was one of the Kibaki's economic advisor, and we knew how the formula will be. So if we cannot be able to run an economy of that magnitude, these people are not caring, because the Vision 2030 was very clear that the demand side of the economy has a lot of corruption. And the supply side of the economy is difficult to be corrupted. For example, when farmers are growing maize, isn't it? That side of the economy is difficult to corrupt. Sugarcane is difficult to corrupt. Milk, for example, Githunguri Dairy, Othaya Dairy, Mukweni Dairy, those ones are difficult to corrupt. But these guys want to import. For example, you've seen fertilizer being imported, are being told around, is it 300 million bags or 100 million bags, somewhere thereabout, isn't it? They are being imported. Why are we importing fertilizer? We are importing fertilizer so that somebody can make a cut from the importation of fertilizer. You're getting me? But do you know they were manufacturing fake fertilizer here, then selling to us as imported fertilizer?
They were not even manufacturing. They were crushing stones somewhere here.
That's
It was not even.
Let me ask you.
They were manufacturing stones.
They were crushing stones.
Dan,
Yes.
did you not learn in high school the formula of a fertilizer? For example, DAP, isn't it? So you know the formula. You know how much phosphorus, what.
Yeah.
You know the formula. The computer, I'm talking about born before computer. If you just Google the formula, it's there. Can a Kenyan come with a formula? And there are no Kenyans manufacturing fertilizer. Why are we importing? So what I'm trying to say in short is that there's lack of vision, and these people's vision is always how to get rich. And that's why I also gave another policy. In the alternative government, I'm very clear about what I would do if at all we come out with this government, alternative government or leadership. First, anybody whose net worth is more than 200 million should never work in government. They should set up a business and employ Kenyans and pay taxes. Because if you have a net worth of more than 200 million, your work will be, how do you protect it? Do you know, the other time I was having a discussion with my wife, and this was a very difficult discussion we had. She told me, Fred, you are very busy, and sometimes you lose focus, and me, I want your attention. I told them, if you want a man who is 100% present, they should be a very poor man. Because there's nothing they're worried about, isn't it? They should be very poor man. Anyway, that is not a good discussion to have, but this was important to discuss. Now, a man who is 3.2 billion, isn't it? Do you know what he thinks about from morning to evening?
Security.
Security. But you see, for me and you, we'll just walk here. Silvio. So someone who is worth more than 200 million is concerned about how there'll be succession, who will take over. Is one of my wife going to take over from my family? So he's bothered with his things that he has now business about us. So that's why a man who is having a net worth, I talk about capping of wealth. Once you declare your wealth, and your wealth declaration will not be done, but you also speaking, we'll send an audit firm to audit your wealth and give us a report as you bring your report. The way I see vetting, so what is your net worth? I'm 3.2 million. Where are you getting yours? From real estate. How do we confirm? A speaker asking silly questions. In economics, we say there are questions which are not valid. Don't ask a question you can verify. Ni kama mwalimu is setting an exam and he has no answer for the exam and is going to mark. How can Moses Wetangula ask you in parliament, tell me about your net worth, and he doesn't know whether you're saying the truth or lying? That is an invalid question. Never ask invalid question. It's like asking enough, do you love me? So how will you know? Don't ask. Don't even ask. Doesn't just say I love you. Whether he said I don't love you, that don't discuss that, because who will verify? Because only my heart knows and your heart knows, isn't it? Yeah. So we want to find a way on which these things must. You will come to the interview and being told, Honorable Dan, your net worth is 350 million. This is coming from housing. This is coming from here. This is coming from here. Why do you want to become a CS if you are 350 million worth? That's what you want to explain us. You want to be the one telling us what we'll tell you because we know. In this country, if the government wants to know your bank account balance, they will know.
Actually, they already know.
And they already know. Like me, they know there's just police around in my account. So there is no, isn't it? So what I'm trying to say here is that when your net worth is more than 200 million, you'll never get a government job. So we are capping wealth also. Why? You're already becoming a business owner. You should become an entrepreneur. If you have been able to entrepreneur until you have a 200 million net worth, you better go and set up a business. We give it support. We'll give you support, because if we have rich people in government, then you are giving them advantage to make money using the government. But we want them to go there and make the private sector competitive. But if you have wealthy billionaires inside the government, you are killing the private sector because they are going to have a due advantage over the private sector. So, for example, let's say you have a construction company. Let's say, for example, you go to Deputy President now Kindiki, isn't it? Kindiki is a lawyer. He has a law firm, isn't it? He's worth now around 700 million shillings, isn't it? And a law firm. Now, if we are looking how to offer legal services to the government as a private individual, will you beat Kindiki?
You can't.
Because he will just call Attorney General. So that there's an undue advantage against the private sector. Any country where we have a competitive private sector, it grows like nothing. Go to France. Some of the biggest companies you see now from France were family businesses. For example, Danone yogurt. You take Danone yogurt here, isn't it? In Europe, it's all over the place. If you go to Barcelona, when you are landing in the capital city if you're landing in Barcelona, you see a tall building written Danone. When you go to Greece, you see it. But for us here, we cannot grow a family business because the big businesses belong to politicians who take undue advantage in the government. That's why we cap wealth. As soon as you cross the 200,000 mark, you go to business.
You resign from government.
Yeah. As soon as you cross 55 years, you retire from CS. As soon as you cross the 45-year mark, you retire from PS. Do something else. Now apply for a CS position. So this one will allow youth to cut to government, because once you don't cap the age to give youths a chance, there is no formula. So for me, this is my formula. Now, you'll cascade this one down. If you have reached a certain age, why are you a head teacher? You have been a head teacher of a primary school since we were born, isn't it? You need to upgrade yourself and go to secondary school and teach. Then do a degree, you can go and teach in the university. So that teaching is not meant that for you are born to be a primary school teacher. Look here, some have made it. Some teachers began from primary school. He was a high school teacher. You know what?
I actually became principal, and I was principal for 4.5 years. And I was asking myself, which other challenge can I get? Am I going to do this for life?
For life,
and that is how I left teaching.
So how, you know how it began?
I think it makes sense. There should be a clear path of growth. So that people know from this position, even let me talk about school principals, because I have been one. You do a maximum of 5 years and move out. Do something else. That thing is boring. You cannot keep doing it and doing it. So I mean,
but some people enjoy that principle.
They have done for 30 years, 20 years.
Do you know why some people stay there? You see this capitation, you're paying suppliers and you're stealing money from the school. So why should you remain there? And let me give you an example. When I was chair of the finance committee for St. Francis Community Hospital, we wanted to promote people who are doing nurses to become, for example, the head of nursing unit. And some people refused. They wanted, how will someone refuse a promotion from just being a nurse to being a head of the nursing unit. Then I discovered something interesting. That when they were nurses, they were coming up with this overtime, which were not even there, and they collude with some other staff to have overtime approved, which didn't exist. I discovered that between Monday and Wednesday, you don't see a lot of work, isn't it? Then from Wednesday, there's a lot of work that is now piled to Sunday and Saturday, because Saturday and Sunday, the overtime is very high, isn't it? And that person finds that as head of nursing unit, they cannot do overtime. So they found that it's more interesting to remain up with chini, so that they eat. So, for example, if you move from a head teacher to become a lecturer, you cannot eat money of the university. You will be given classes you teach, and you earn from classes. You cannot earn by procurement in the school. So unakaa hapo kama head teacher, unajifanya kama you are sacrificing for the whole community.
But you're not.
Kumbe you are not. In our work, people must move. I give another system in Finland. In Finland, for example, when you just graduate from work, isn't it? You get a salary, and then the government looks for how you can buy a 1-bedroom apartment. 1 bedroom, because you have just come from work, you are still dating or something, you have no wife, you have no full-time woman in you, isn't it?
You just graduated from campus.
So then after working for 4 years, the guy will ask you, you need to move from
1 bedroom.
1 bedroom to 2nd bedroom. So it means that you must upgrade your education, you must upgrade your career so that you move to 2 bedroom. Now that right now you should get married, isn't it? Now after that, there's a plan to have 4, 5 bedroom, then own your house. But this also gives that you are moving in terms of career, also moving in terms of how you are accumulating wealth, isn't it? But here is some people live where they used to live when you are born, and they have no problem with it. So a society must progress. That is a new way of thinking. That's alternative leadership. Why should one person be so successful and others are not? The president says he was a chicken seller, isn't it? He's now the president. Now, it is not interesting to tell us what you are, but it's more interesting to tell people, how did you take somebody from where they were to where they are? I was a professor in Strathmore, isn't it? I have but help coach and mentor and champion 37 CEOs. Yes. One of the CEO is the current CEO of KCB. Paul Russo was my student, isn't it? And I helped mentor him. You go to the CEO of Housing Finance, Robert Kibara. I met him when he was a director at NIC Bank. When NIC Bank merged with the CBA Bank, now the National Commercial Bank of Africa, he upgraded. Now he's a CEO of Housing Finance. You've seen me in a photo with him when I'm giving him my book when he's a CEO there. So those are things I can say. But now for you, you move from a chicken seller to the president, and no one moved from a wheelbarrow pusher, isn't it, to drive a motorcycle, isn't it? Guys who used to ride motorcycles, I met the motorcycle riders in Thika. There's a gentleman who told me, Professor, before this man took government, he told us we shall move from a motorcycle rider to own a Nissan, to own a bus, and to own a plane, isn't it? But now, I'm regretting why I even dared to move from being a bicycle rider to a motorbike rider, because it's cheaper because of fuel has gone up. There are so many taxes, there are so many pressures on motorcycle riders that you're making no money. So if the boda remained where they were and you told them watatengeneza serikali, Mama Mboga remained only with the Mama Mboga, the kiosk, the small kiosk they were running. But for you, you have moved from where you are, deputy president, to be president, and no one moved. You get me?
You moved alone.
Whom have you made? So leadership is about followership. And the leadership mentality is not a boss mentality. The current president sees himself more as the boss, not as a leader. A boss uses, a leader empowers. That's the difference between a boss and a leader. So even you, Dan, where you're working, I know you work with people. If you use those people to create wealth for yourself, then you become a member of parliament one day. Then you tell them, I used to work with this one. I've seen people who are very successful. No, this guy used to be in my class, but now he's sweeping on the street, isn't it? What have you done to them? What have you made to lift them up? The power you have should be used to lift people up. If you feel you are powerful, lift others up. And your success will be seen by the ones you lift up. But here we are having a government that anybody who should be successful should be brought down so that they're successful.